Good afternoon. I'm speaking to you live just outside
I like to think balding is just God's way of saying, now let's see you get laid.
Is it true that if you don't use it, you lose it?
What I'd really like to do is put the greatness of this man in perspective.
The hairloss community has a lot to be thankful for, having you as a spokesperson.
You mean you just call this guy up?
About life and about reality.
And now, America's #1 reality radio show for men. Live from Los Angeles, it's Spencer Kobren's The Bald Truth.
Hey guys, welcome to the broadcast. 888-659-3727 is the toll-free number. Joseph W. Tillman, thank you so much for joining us. Finally. How are you, sir?
I know. I had a phone call that I've been waiting on all day come in at, you guessed it, 3 o'clock on the dot. I was already going to be like maybe 2 or 3 minutes late, but it's like, I got to take this call. So,
Did you win?
I did.
Okay.
I won.
Publishing Clearinghouse. They don't call normally. Don't they just stop by?
Well, I was going to say I actually got. I'm getting they want my address so I could get my football telephone.
Jesus, that is old school, man. People have no idea what you're talking about. By the way,
they have no idea. I know.
Guys, of course I got it. I'm 58 years old. Guys, by the way, this is the Hair Loss Show. We are live doing the broadcast. I'm live in Los Angeles. Joe Tillman, the original hair transplant mentor, is live in Vancouver, British Columbia. And we somehow are able to do this program from 2 completely different locations and make it appear to be... 2 different countries. 2 different countries, yes. And make it appear to be as though we're kind of in the same room. Dude, come on. You know I have a sore throat. Kind of in the same room. But we're here to answer your questions. Listen, if you don't know who I am, why I'm here, I've been doing this for a long time. Going on our 27th year of this broadcast or this stream in some form or another. Was on the radio for 11, almost 12 years. On national radio, syndicated across the country. Also syndicated up in Canada, so it was another country. Then on XM satellite radio before they merged with Sirius satellite radio. And then I decided to take the show on the road, so to speak. Essentially, I kind of semi-retired. And these guys like Andrew Zarian, guys from Queens Network, Joe Tillman, they wanted me to continue to do this thing. I didn't want to put it on my YouTube channel. I didn't want to stream it through some resource. So I said, you know what? If you want me to do this, I will turn on my camera and my microphone and let you guys stream it on your resources. Because I want nothing to do with the crazy comments and all the insanity that goes on online. But I do want to provide the truth about anything and everything hair loss, just like I did when I was on radio. You know, when I was on the radio, it was just a lot. It was a lot. I got to tell you, it was a lot better. You turn on your microphone, you came in. Well, first of all, I didn't have to handle any of the equipment, which is fine. You know, I learned how to do that after a while. But I'd go in, sometimes drunk, sometimes sober. It really depended on the day. Late night, I'd sit in the studio, turn on my microphone. Everyone else would be working. And I would just be able to talk to hair loss sufferers and consumers and people who are considering having surgery and just tell them the truth. And then turn off the microphone, say goodnight to everybody, and then go to the bar. And that was my gig. And I enjoyed it. And the only way people were able to contact me was, especially at that time, at the beginning of my career, was through snail mail. And trust me, I got some crazy shit in the mail. I had a guy who sent me a lock of his hair and told me that he was interested. He was into Star Trek and wanted to know if I was too. Okay.
Was that part necessary? Come on.
Yeah, but that's a true
I like Star Trek.
Yeah, but I'm saying that's a true story. You know? So then
when trying to find some common ground to talk about, you know, other than hair.
Yeah, and then it was like the whole, you know, and as the message forum world started to grow and all the insanity and misinformation. I don't even like to use the term misinformation, but I guess that's what it is. And just the the vitriol and people picking sides and teams and doctors and this website over another website. I would just sit back and watch people either revere me, cheer me, despise me. Just kind of watch the whole thing go down. Just for coming out and telling the truth.
Yeah.
But with all that said, I have to tell you that the favorite part of my work week, Joseph Tillman, is doing this broadcast. Even though I'm not doing any of it. I'm not doing anything except for talking and putting on my microphone. I run the board and I run the stream. But that's easy. I'm not distributing. I'm not doing anything. Now, I should probably or hire someone to do it. And I'm considering doing that again. And I've spoken about this for like the last year and a half. But at the very least, we get to reach out to you guys who either find me on Instagram, find Joe on Instagram, watch Joe's on Joe's hair transplant channel on YouTube, .com/hair transplant mentor. So if it's 1,000 people who are tuning in and on the first night of the broadcast, great. If it's 2,000 people through all the resources, that's terrific. Those are 2,000 souls whose lives are probably being saved, or at least we're providing them with the information they need to make better informed decisions. They have a fighting chance not to get fucked up or ripped off. It always makes me laugh when people are like, well, what are your podcast numbers? I'm like, I don't know. I check out Joe's downloads. I look at the people that may be watching it through the Bald Truth.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, 4,000, sometimes 5,000 total.
Yep.
Every week. That's a lot of people. And every one of them is most likely considering surgery now, especially in this insane climate where surgery is apparently a first resort, not a last resort.
A lot of the times it is.
Yeah.
And and here's the thing about the numbers. I don't even really pay attention to the numbers because I pay attention to the people that contact me and say, oh my God, I didn't know you even existed. I just found your show. It popped up in my feed. Can you answer some questions?
Sure.
Or when doctors say, what, you guys are doing great work. Really appreciate it. I have people coming in saying, they learned about this or they learned about that because of the Bald Truth. That's what I'm concerned about, or that's what I pay attention to, because that tells me that we're doing the right thing. We're doing good stuff here, good work, and people are listening, they're learning, and they're applying it to their own situation. Unfortunately, not enough. And I think this is where the doctors can come in, because what we talk about here is the truth as far as it pertains to hair transplant surgery, patient education in general. We don't talk about, this is better, this procedure is better than that procedure, this device is better than that device, because the tool's only as good as the hand that wields it. And the basics of education are unwielding. They don't change with regards to patient safety, patient ethics. And that's why I think that more doctors should be sharing this on their Instagram, on their Facebook, on their whatever. That guy's calling back. Because it's universal. It applies to every type of procedure, every type of clinic that's offering treatments for hair loss.
Well, here's what I need to make clear. And sorry for the few doctors who are actually tuning in. In general, these guys don't give a shit. Now, a lot of you are probably thinking to yourself, Kobren, why would you say that? You work with, 60 some odd doctors, or they're part of your organization. Even the doctors who are part of my organization, they support our message. They are, out of all the doctors in the country, they are some of the best in the world, with the most consistent results in a industry filled with just really fucked up doctors and clinics and people who just really could care less about the well-being of patients. These are the guys and the women. Mm-hmm. But they still don't a lot of them still don't fully understand what we do. They're appreciative to be a part of what we do. They're appreciative to be appreciative to be a part of the IHRS. They support surgery as a last resort, all that stuff, which is great. Truth in advertising, terrific. But if they just came together to actually promote this message in a way, just by following our instructions, essentially, simple directions, thousands upon thousands of lives would be changed. And many of these guys are still the mindset, well, if we send people to your resources, then someone's going to see my competition. And guys who are holding on, call back, 888-659-3727. I'll take your call. It's a show. We're just starting the show. We want to talk a little bit before we get to the phones.
It's called a monologue, people. Johnny Carson started it.
I don't know who
that is.
Jack Parr, actually, I think. Or Steve Allen.
Or Jack Parr.
Steve Allen and Steve
Allen.
Jack Parr. But look, I've been doing this for a long time, and I'm at this point where I'm reading the WhatsApp groups and I'm seeing how people still interact, and the old guard just will never fucking get it. I'm convinced of that.
Yeah.
But the new guys, the guys in their 30s and 40s, the guys that want to really be associated with what we do, who kind of like grew up, in a sense, when they first got into the field, like, okay, these are the established entities. The International Alliance of Hair Restoration Surgeons, the American Hair Loss Association, Joe Tillman, the original hair transplant mentor. In the UK, you have Spencer Stevenson with Specs Hair. You have people who have been in the industry and have developed not only just a following, but at least in what we do, true street cred. So these younger guys, they want to be a part of what we do. They're applying. I opened up the database today because I think you and I had a discussion yesterday on the phone when I was in my car about what I need to do in order to make this happen. And so I opened up a database to take a look. I'm looking at all the young doctors, including one that you said applied, all the young doctors who are applying to the IHRS. I'm just like, fuck it, man. We could do a complete dialysis. And just bring these young guys on who are willing to not just do the right thing for their patients, but promote our message in a collective way where they don't feel like, oh, we're promoting our competition, or where there's not some guy in Vancouver worrying about how much money Kobren's making. Because Jerry, I've already made the money. I've been doing this for 30 years. That money is banked and invested and done.
That's funny.
Guy's still worried about how much money I make. It's unbelievable. Great doctor. Love him. Jerry Wong. Where's that gong, by the way? Love him. One of the best that's ever been in this industry. But he's consumed about how much money I make.
Well, here's my little tidbit about the future.
Guys, hold on. I promise you I'll take your calls in 1 second. As soon as Joe finishes his thought.
I'm more encouraged now than I have been recently because I've been getting more applications that are of a quality that I'm able to take them on. They are younger. I've mentioned this before. You guys got to be patient with me. I've had questions like, who's this doctor? Like, when you said he's coming, it's like he's still he went to a conference in Brazil. He told me this morning it took him 30 hours to get there and 30 hours to get back, which is crazy. But he said it was very important. It was a great conference. It's a Afro hair focused conference in Brazil. Several doctors I know went to this. So it was really good. But he's been delayed in getting me some final things. He's supposed to get them to me today. I'll get the video hopefully done by November 1. But there's another doctor that I've been working with for a year and a half to get his shit straight as far as documentation and paperwork. And he's finally said it's coming like this week. You'll have it. So I got two really good young doctors that have kind of helped to, I don't want to say reinvigorate, but re-energize my hope for the future of this industry, because I saw it again today. It reared its ugly head and what I'm talking about is the mindset of the old school, the old school guys that have been around for 30 years, just like you're talking about. It's the mindset of, well, I don't want to send my viewers, my website visitors to some place where other people will be seen. My competitors will be seen.
Right.
That's not the way it works. Have a little bit of an open mind, like these younger guys do, and understand that when you're part of a smaller circle as opposed to a bigger circle, there's more of a pie to eat for everyone.
Well, and that thing, you're right
It's
about
simple
that.
math.
But it's so short-sighted because by them not doing this, yeah, I understand you're repairing a lot of robotic surgery that's being people who are purchasing these devices that don't know what they're doing, who let their staff set the parameters before the patient even sits down in the chair and choose the size of the punches and all that stuff. That's what these types of these doctors are seeing, and they're seeing all the corrective surgery they need to do from Turkey and elsewhere. But that would be a lot less if everyone just got together and essentially promoted the good guys, or at least the guys that consumers will have a fighting chance with. There's also the
Common
school
message.
of thought.
That's all there is to it.
There's also a school of thought where I'm like, well, some of these docs, their repair arm of their practices are growing exponentially. That's a lot of money too.
Yeah.
Do they not? Maybe they don't want to see less repair surgeries. They're realizing, wait a second, I could charge the same, if not more. This guy's going to be in my chair for at least 2 or 3 sessions. So maybe that's cynical. But part of me does believe that some of these guys, they really don't give a shit. And they're like, you know what? It's just more repair patients for me. Is that wrong to say?
Yeah, I don't think it's wrong at all. I don't think so.
I really should take another Advil before this show. 888-659-3727. Let's see who this is. Let's see. I'll take line 1. Hey, you're on the air. Who's this and where are you calling from?
Hey, guys.
Hey.
How you doing?
Who's this?
Good. It's Trey from Vancouver.
Trey from Vancouver. What's happening, man?
What's up, Trey?
Hey, so I wanted to call in and find out how much money Spencer makes.
Oh, okay. Hold on. Let me get my bookkeeper and my accountant.
No, I'm...
Is this Jerry?
I just want...
Wow. You sound good, man. You sound really
all
young.
the callers from Vancouver want to know, so...
Yeah. So what's happening on that?
I just wanted to call and commend you guys on the call you had last week with the caller from the UK.
I have no
just thought that was such a great call. It was just to kind of refresh your memory. He was 25. He wanted to, or he was thinking of getting a transplant right before his wedding.
Oh yeah, he's 27. 27.
Yes. Sorry, 27. Yeah. Sorry, yeah. But I mean, there's so much great information in that, and I mean, you could almost pinpoint the moment where the realization set in that I haven't given this the thought it deserves, and
Yeah.
I thought that was such a great call because it really highlights how little thought and some people just aren't putting into it, and I mean, you should explore the alternatives before.
But think about the alternative that he decided to gravitate towards. And it's not illogical for Joe to have mentioned this, but this guy's willing to have potential to have breast surgery, gynecomastia surgery, so that he can take medication only because he wants to have surgery. I mean, think about that whole process, that it is his thought process. Now, yes, he needs to be on medication if he plans on having surgery. But instead of doing all that, he could spend $250 on a partial hair system for his wedding at least. See if he could deal with that. And once he's married, his wife will tell him, Either that looks good or it doesn't. And if he feels comfortable in it and it looks good, what's the difference? He's married and he could still look the way that he wants in the mirror without having surgery.
Exactly. And I mean, to try and make a decision like that, you know, just for one day, like, it's just, I mean, there's a lot of people who think like that, you know, and it's, it just goes to show you how fast food hair transplants have become, especially in the UK. It's like, I'm just going to take a quick jump over to Turkey and get a hair transplant. But it's like, I actually think it should be mandatory. If you're going to get a hair transplant, you should have to shave your head and live with it for 3 months to just try it. Just try it out. You're going to have to shave it likely for a hair transplant anyway.
Well,
and as far as I know, the only cure to baldness is a shaved head.
There was
That's
a time,
only true cure to baldness.
There was a time in this world where, you know, there had to be some sort of a psychological clearance where, say, someone wanted to transition from male to female. You know, I think it was a year or 2 years of some sort of, you know, therapy and, you know, just living as a woman before they got their parts cut off and stuff like that, which made total sense to me. So I think that, and I know that's changed, but I think that that's not a terrible idea for hair transplant surgery. You know, shave your head. I mean, shave your head. You'll deal with it.
You'll try it out. What's the worst that happens? It grows back, right? But at least you've experienced it. And I mean, if you go onto Reddit and you see all these, if you follow the bald forums and stuff, you'll see there's nobody on there, or next to nobody on there, who doesn't look better with a shaved head.
Interesting. Because it doesn't look better because their hair looks so shitty.
Yeah, because I mean they're thinning, right? But they look so much younger. They look so much better with a shaved head. Now, not everybody. There are those outliers that unfortunately they can't pull off a shaved head. But those are more few and far between than you would think. And I think the thing too, if you have a bit of timing, and it's a big change, so you get to know yourself looking in a very different way, you get used to it over time, you know? And I mean, like in my own example, I almost fainted the first time I shaved my head. I was like, I've got this weird bump on the top of my head, and I was like, how can I live the rest of my life like this? Like people are going to laugh at me. And like, we're talking 10 years on, and I've been living just fine, and nobody notices. That's the thing. Nobody notices.
Yeah,
but like,
I think that's incredibly freeing, and that's such an incredible attitude. I'm sorry to cut you off, and trust me, I struggle with it myself. I am at a point in my life where I wouldn't mind eventually really considering getting on some sort of a, in quotes, anti-aging protocol. Basically, you're on steroids. That's what it is.
I don't care what it is.
I don't care what anybody says. TRT, you know, all that stuff.
Spencer's on the juice.
You're basically juicing. And so, and there's a lot of people that are going to say, oh, that's bullshit, man. This is, you know, you're just trying to get back to your natural levels. You're taking synthetic hormones, you know?
Yeah.
You're altering your hormones. So, but I think about it because I know it would be a lot easier for me. My workouts would be easier. I know that my body composition will be just that much better, even with a little bit of boost. So I wrestle with that in my head because I know that there's a pretty strong chance, more than a 50-50 chance that I could end up losing hair from it, or I could start the process. And then I would have to try to up my medication. It'll be a fucking thing. So I wrestle with the idea. I wish that I could be in the headspace where I could just shave it off, live with it for a while, and see if I'm willing to get, you know, juiced up. I mean, if I could do that, I'd be on like Decca and Diana Ball. It would be insane. I'd be like The Rock. No, but honestly, I do struggle with that even at my age, you know? So the fact that, you know, when I see young guys, and women for that matter, I look at, you know, WHLP's Wife from Women's Hair Loss Project. It's amazing what she's been able to do. I mean, that took a tremendous amount of courage. She's been able to do it. I'm not built that way yet. So when I listen to guys like you, it actually inspires me a little bit.
But you know what? I mean, I definitely understand that. And I think, I mean, prior to the 90s, it was a lot more taboo to have a shaved head, but now we live in a different time. But the problem I think we're encountering now is like all of these people getting these hair transplants in Turkey. It's almost normalizing having to have a transplant. And then like instead of normalizing just people having a shaved head, there's more people who are thinning and balding.
Yeah, I'm losing your volume a little bit.
Oh, have you lost me?
Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just saying that there's more people who are thinning, balding. Like if people just shave their heads and kind of normalized having a shaved head, like it would reduce so much of the stress. It would reduce so many of the bad transplants. And I get it's not for everybody, but try it out before you make a decision for one day. Like this is a lifetime commitment, and it's gonna include a heavy medication routine. It's going to include probably multiple procedures if you want to maintain it over 10 years. So just try it out. It's really, there's this, and again, I think I'm talking to the younger generation, like the people who are in their 20s now and understandably freaking out at that age that they're losing their hair. Just give it a shot. Try it for 3 months. It'll grow back. But for your first port of call to be a cheap Ryanair flight to Turkey, like, it blows my mind.
Well, it blows my mind, too, especially knowing what I know. And obviously, you've been following the program for a long time, and you have, some great insight as well. But knowing just how difficult of a cosmetic surgery this really is, and that you're really trying to hit a moving target when you're dealing with hair loss and you're dealing with hair loss surgery. And you really have to, anyone who's performing it, really has to understand the entire scope and possible pitfalls, and the consumer is not made aware of it. It is, I'll give you an example. I saw a well-known, or let's just say a very popular hair loss, in quotes, influencer. And I say both in quotes, hair loss influencer. She's a young trichologist who just got her trichology license, I don't know, maybe 2 years ago. And she built up this tremendous following on Instagram. Talks about, in my view, a lot of bullshit, but I saw a video of her discussing hair transplant surgery and the possible, she says, side effects of hair transplant surgery. Like, the hair transplant may not take, or, just like ridiculously glossing over the reality. Like, look, if you're a woman, you're probably not a candidate. If you're a guy and you're young and you're going over to some place overseas, you're probably going to be disfigured. None of that's discussed. It's just like, it's clickbait, and it's a way for this person to get more views. She has like 1 million followers on Instagram or some shit like that. And if you want to watch her videos, anyone who has any like modest form of education when it comes to this space would just be shaking their heads. But this is what first of all, this is what social media pushes out for whatever reason. This is what these people are putting out as content. And this is what suckers who are dealing with this devastating disease of the spirit gravitate towards. And there's no fighting it. We do what we do every week, and we do what we do in our careers, and we were able to reach a certain amount of people. But for every person we reach, there are 1,000 people or more who are seeing this person's content and believing what she's saying. I saw Paul Saladino, is that his name? He did the carnivore MD guy, the guy that I had a conversation with. I saw a reel where he's essentially saying eggs make better shampoo than shampoo, and they also can help with hair growth.
Oh, for fuck's sake.
Now, this is a doctor who has a following. He's got 1.6 million followers or something like that on Instagram. He's a huge influencer. And this is the bullshit that he's pushing.
People are desperate for anything. Like rosemary oil, eggs. If somebody told you that pissing on your hands and rubbing it into your head would help, they'd do it, And I get it. But why is that a better alternative?
I drank piss for a year.
Why is that a better alternative than trying to shave your head? It's but I mean, like, the reason I wanted to call is because I just think that was such a great example of, you going through the options and him slowly coming to the realization that realistically there are very few viable options if you're going bald. It's just
sorry to interrupt, but I will tell you why it's not just why not shave your head. It's because for most, I think it's safe to say most men, if they shave their head, they're giving up in their mind. They're giving up the fight because they have this image of themselves that they want to achieve, and they're seeing on TikTok, they're seeing on Instagram, they're seeing on WhatsApp because they're getting bombarded with follow-up contacts just for reaching out to say, hey, what does it cost? They're getting bombarded by clinics. It's so easy to get your hair back, according to Insta, Tik, and other ways that they're being influenced. It's easy, man. YouTube influencers, it's easy to get your hair back. So shaving is giving up when you shouldn't give up. That's what's going on in their minds. That's why they're not shaving more so than ever. It was already difficult in the past. Like 10 years ago, before this social media phenomenon kicked in for hair restoration, it was already tough. Now it's even tougher because more people or more avenues, more channels are saying, it's like the angel on one shoulder and the devil on the other. Go ahead, man. Go ahead. Just go ahead and do it. You want it. It's so easy. Just take it. That kind of thing. That's why.
I totally get it. What's going on? When I went through that, I legitimately, this sounds crazy, but I thought my life was over when I shaved my head. I'm like, how am I ever going to find a partner? How am I ever going to be able to go into a job interview and them not think I look funny? All these things go through your mind, and it's traumatic. I totally understand that.
It sounds crazy to someone that isn't going through it. I get that, but for guys that are going through it, it's completely legitimate. It's a complete legitimate line of questioning. Like, what am I going to do now? I look like a freak. No, you don't. You look like every other fucking schmuck walking around.
Exactly.
None of us are unique to where we're standing. Maybe a few guys. They're standing out to where people are like, "What's wrong with that guy?" None of it. It's like it just doesn't happen. I've had so many conversations like this with patients, especially when I was a consultant, and even now. It's like, what makes you, okay, on one level, what makes you think you're so special for whatever? And in this line of thinking, what makes you think you're so special that you're just that ugly, that everyone will see you standing out as opposed to everyone else?
Well, here's the thing.
Because of something on your head.
All I can talk about my psychology and why I got into this. And I think that I was able to, when I thought I was alone in these feelings, and I finally realized that I wasn't, that's one of the reasons why I wanted to do the show and write the book. But it wasn't about being totally ugly. It was about just not being as attractive, not being able to pull the women that I used to pull in my mind, or not being able to feel comfortable in my own skin. Not that I felt that I was going to be like hideous, I'm not even going to say who, but I just felt this wasn't me. I didn't want to be a young guy dealing with hair loss. And I think that's what most people go through.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that's it. That's all it is. And I still go through it. I've been doing this. I've been dealing with this for a very long time. Every time I have to paint my bald spot, I'm like, oh shit, it's a little bigger. Man, I got to put more paint on this. Or what's the future going to hold? Or it's still in my mind, even though I've been living with it and dealing with it for the last 30 some odd years. So, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I totally understand that, and I think it's more so like, and Joe, you were saying like people feel like they're giving up, and I totally get that, but you have to come to the realization the hair's giving up on you. Like you're fighting an uphill battle, and you're going to come to the point where you're just spending all your time obsessing about it and trying to do any treatment, rubbing eggs into your head or mashed potatoes or whatever it is, and like, it's just not gonna reverse what's happening. And it's a tough realization to come to. But like, if you are at the stage where you're like, okay, I want to get a transplant, and you're potentially putting yourself at a life of misery, getting a botched job, the least you can do is the temporary misery of shaving your head and just sitting with it for 3 months. Wear a beanie if you
I
need
agree
to.
100%.
Wear a hat. Cover
I agree
it up
100%.
for the rest of the 3 months. But
Dude, and
I got to tell
temporary-
you, the first time I shaved my head, it was in the early 90s when I was going in the Merchant Marines. And even then...
Here we go, the Merchant
this
Marine
is
story
this-
again.
This is back when I was your age. No, it was before my first hair transplant, and it was extremely liberating. It was so awesome having a shaved head, but I knew I couldn't wear it out in the regular world because I'd be a skinhead. Fast forward to the 2000s, that was the only way. It's like I can't deal with this. I had my first repair surgery with Dr. Wong, and again, I loved having a shaved head, even with the bad work on my head from before. And then last time I shaved my head 4 years ago, it's like, man, I miss this. And I was just thinking earlier before the show, I might shave my head next summer just for shits and giggles. No work being done, just because I enjoy it. And it looks good on me.
When these guys contact me through
that.
Instagram, and I'm sorry to cut you off, when these guys contact me through Instagram and they are livid, they're so upset that I'm talking or providing the advice that you're talking about. Shave your head first, or surgery is the last resort, or the young guys who are out there getting 5,000 grafts overseas are really going to regret it in a few years, and they have no idea. And they're so angry because, of course, they have this confirmation bias. They were told something different. They weren't provided this information before they made an incredibly life-altering decision. I have one guy, I think he lives down in Florida. He's I think he sells medical devices. And he's like, he's a little militant about, his position. And I understand it. He went down to Turkey. He had what I consider to be kind of like the typical Turkish hair transplant. And he has a very, low, youthful, kind of straightish hairline placed. Currently, he's a good-looking dude, looks good on him, all that stuff. He believes that PRP and topical medication is going to keep the hair that he has on his head for a very, very long time. And I can tell you that the odds of that are probably maybe 80-20, not in his favor.
Yeah.
Yet, he continues to perpetuate this. It's one thing, this is how I feel about it. If you made that decision, then you've made that decision. We cross our fingers and hope for the best. But why lead other people down that path? I don't understand that mentality. I guess it's a misery loves company mentality.
It's either you're making money off it or you're scared and you want to bring others along with you so that misery loves company, right?
Yeah.
So if it all goes wrong for you, it goes wrong for everybody else. But it's just, the irony of it is like Joe, you have one of the best hair transplants I've seen, and the irony is you're thinking of shaving it now, because it's liberating. And but unless I'm mistaken, from what I've been following, you said that you wouldn't get a hair transplant in the first place if you could go back and rewind the clock. So that should be an indication to people that just try it. Just give it a shot. And obviously I follow the show because I haven't given up, right? Like to your point, I haven't given up on it. Like I still want to find out maybe there's something down the line I can do. And I've started taking medication to see maybe, like I'll have some results that I'll be happy with. But I've lived with a shaved head and been perfectly content with one for 10 years,
That's great,
would
man.
I like to have the option? Of course I would. I don't like having that option taken away from me. I've since making that decision, I've always felt like something was kind of missing, but the stress of living with that cloud over you and potentially making a decision based on that mindset you're in at that time, it's so much better on the other side, and just try it out.
There's nothing, and again, incredibly, lucid, just really smart advice, but there's nothing worse than receiving an email or getting a call to the show from a young guy who feels they made a mistake, that they fucked up, that they jumped in too soon. And, I cannot answer all of my DMs through Instagram. I just can't do it. That's why I try to get these guys who are following me to call the program and ask their questions. But in this world, man, no one wants to pick up a fucking phone. It's bizarre, man. They want a quick text or DM. But I do read some of these DMs that come in, and they're all young guys who regret having their hair transplant, who mostly went to Turkey or India or some place where they were able to find a better price. They were misguided. They did all their entire consultation through WhatsApp. Physicians were barely in the room. One person doesn't even know if there was a doctor involved at all. This is a woman, actually. And these are young people now who are desperate. Like they were upset about their hair loss, and they are so much more upset now that they are essentially disfigured. They may eventually look normal again, but it's going to take a lot of work and a lot of money. And that is not atypical. That is actually, believe it or not, you probably now, in this environment, you got about a 50-50 chance of being on that end of the spectrum, like really fucked up right away. And you have about a 75% chance of being fucked up within a 10-year period, meaning you don't have enough supply to meet the demand, and that your scarring will eventually become more visible. So, dude, I mean, you are a prime example of someone who thought this out. As difficult as your life has been, or was for a while, and as panicked as you were when you shaved your head, you got past that, and you've been able to live your life without regrets. And that's an amazing way to live your life, man.
Yeah, and I feel for these people, you know, and it does to a certain degree. It angers me. People who are taking advantage of people who, you know, I can't say it's a mental health issue, but like these people are going through real mental torment, and like to capitalize on that, you know, especially like young guys who are just starting to see signs of thinning or recession, you know, and for them to think there's this quick fix, which is a $5,000 job in Turkey that they can get a Ryanair flight for 99 pounds, you know, it's like, it's just not, that's not going to work for you, you know,
I saw these two heavily tattooed influencers. I don't even know what their handle is. And I guess they're pretty popular. And they just went to Turkey to have a hair transplant. First of all, both their heads are tattooed. So there's that underground of the tattoo with the new hair that's being placed. But they have no idea what they got involved in. First of all the tattoo work that they had on the back and sides, that's all going to be disrupted now. And they think somehow that hair is going to grow back. It's not. They have a little punctate wounds at best all over their scalp now. And they are basically, you know, providing documenting their journey for their followers. And how many followers are going to jump in and have surgery with their partners, in quotes, before they see the end results?
Before the results even seen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It could be hundreds or more.
Yeah.
So it's fucked up, man. And, you know, I get a lot of hate for just being honest and letting people know that this is the reality. And I'm sorry to say it. Look, do you think, and I tell these kids, you know, everyone's like, what, you know, they talk about, they actually mock me for saying I paint my bald spot or I wear hairspray. Some people, you know, joke about the comb over. Why don't you have surgery? Think about why I don't have surgery. I've been in the field for 30 years. I have a hair transplant organization that I founded.
Exactly.
It's not that I think surgery is not a great option for the right candidate. I'm not that candidate. I understand the reality of it.
I mean, I commend you for, like, that's the thing. I commend you for kind of coming to the acceptance, you know, and doing something about it. Like, you're actively, like you said, like if you have to use a bit of concealer or whatever and you feel comfortable with that, that's a great solution, you know, or like you've mentioned to people that the hair systems, and there seems to be this big resistance to a hair system, but it's like you're willing to like permanently disfigure yourself as opposed to trying out either shaving your head or putting on a hair system. You know, and for me, like a hair system just wasn't an option, so I went with the shaved head. It took a while to get used to it, and it was definitely not easy, but you do. And to make that, I just think that was a really great call, because it really, I could hear the moment he came to the realization where I haven't fully thought this out, and I need to reevaluate what I'm planning to do.
Well, man,
for
listen,
wedding day.
I appreciate your call, and
Nice.
I appreciate you pointing that out. And yes, that's exactly what happened. And my hope is that he's really thinking about this, maybe listening to the program today and not taking Joe's logical and point advice, which, that is logical if you're going to, if you can get the gynecomastia surgery once you start to feel the glands growing again, if medication is working for you. But why not just stick on the medication for a couple of years, and maybe you may not even need a hair transplant. Just have one surgery, have the tit surgery and wait and see if the medication grows some hair back.
Have a moobectomy.
Yeah, have the moobectomy. So, all right, brother. Listen, man, you're always a great caller. Thank you so much for taking the time to, provide your wisdom to these young
Appreciate
guys.
it, guys.
All right, brother. Take care.
And thank you too.
You got
Got
it,
it, man.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, take care. Bye-bye.
It's a great caller. Guys who hung up, who were
Agreed.
impatient because we like to speak to great callers and to let them share their wisdom. That's what this program is about. It's not just about listening to the two of us. And that's what I think is so unique about this show. We get to hear the stories and the wisdom, in this case, of other hair loss sufferers, people who have experienced the same, just angst and possible triumphs that many of you guys can as well. I do a hair loss show. I've been doing this for such a long time because I was so fucked up over my hair loss. I get it all. I went to a dark place, totally depressed. I didn't suffer from depression before. I probably should have, but I didn't. And that really threw me, man. And everyone was trying to rip me off or perform surgery on me. He's talking about hair pieces. Why do I talk about it? Because I went online, I bought that thing, I cut it in, I tried it out. It was okay, and if I decided this is my only option, absolutely. But paint works. So I wear the paint. It's not a big deal either way. But if things go awry, I don't think surgery is going to be my next step. Maybe it would be shaving.
Maybe.
Maybe
it will be shaving.
Yeah.
Kane from Kung Fu. I personally prefer that route for you because just so I can see if you will look like Kane from Kung Fu.
I will. Maybe a little better.
Alone is worth it for me.
I don't know if I'm going to look quite as diminutive, as Kane did.
You'd be bigger than him.
But he had a really small head too, and I had a long face, kind of like me, but kind of a smaller head. So I think I would look like almost like a cross between Mr. Clean and Kane from Kung Fu.
I can see that.
Or maybe like Eric Clapton without his hair, something like that.
I'm going to start sending you fake news stories about the side effects of long-term finasteride use, so that you stop taking it.
Yeah,
and then you'll wind up shaving your head just for my own sick curiosity.
I got all kinds of shit going on. I don't know what I got, like this weird neuralgia on the side of my face, and everyone else would be blaming finasteride. I'm just like, look, I am all in,
What's interesting is, you said something about patient stories or personal stories, and it just hit me. It's like we're the only show on the internet, full stop, that has this kind of content where people that are dealing with hair loss in multitudes of fucked up ways are calling the show to share their experiences, and you can't find that anywhere else. I think that's amazing.
I like the idea, and that's why that was the concept from day one of this program. And years ago, when it was on the radio, it was different. It was just like it was call after call after call, and it was very intimate. I felt there's no cameras on you. You could sit there, drink a scotch, maybe bum a cigarette from the board op. No one knew. Not that I smoked, but every once in a while there was a time in my life. And you would just hear these stories late, like at 11 o'clock on the East Coast on the weekend. And there was something I thought that was very cathartic about it, and it was very therapeutic, not just for the callers, but for me. It was all about me. Let's face it.
Mm-hmm.
I needed to know that I wasn't the only crazy one, and I wanted to see if I could turn something, my Achilles heel, into my career. And I felt the only way that I can do that is if there were other people like me out there who were just as fucked up over their hair loss. Coming out at first was not easy, man. Trying to explain what I did to people, or when people would see me, like I had family members who saw me on, when my book was first published, I did a lot of television stuff, especially local television in New York. I did some national stuff as well. And people were like, what the fuck is this? You know?
Yeah.
A guy talking about how hair loss fucked him up. And he wrote a book about it. He's not a doctor. And it's selling. But it was all because of how badly this whole process, and I coined it, you know, a devastating disease of the spirit, how it made me feel. And there was very little going on online. Online was relatively new. And so that's the route that I took. So when I hear calls like this, it's like, you know, there's other people who are trying to do shows, whatever it is. It's always the same shit. Somebody interviewing a doctor. I like having doctors on the show. I like when people come into the studio. Mm-hmm. I think it's interesting stuff. And I think there's a place for that. But a lot of that's done in this sphere, not with you, Joe, but other people, in my view, you know, it's all about promoting either the doctors that are sponsoring them, or just, you know, the idea that they kind of downplay, in my view, in most of the stuff that I see, the real negative aspects of hair transplant surgery. Now, there are some doctors that go on these programs that are starting to, you know, play it up a little bit more and talk about the realities of what's happening elsewhere. But they don't necessarily talk about what's happening even in their own smaller communities of so-called really good doctors. Shit can happen anywhere. Anywhere. Bad work is happening everywhere.
Every clinic.
Everywhere. Bad work. Doesn't matter what. New York, Florida, Georgia, wherever. Bad work happens. What's so funny? Guys, the phone number is 888-659-3727. It's 888-659-3727. Give us a phone call. That's what the program is about. I'm here talking about how important these fucking calls are, and all the lines drop.
Well, I think it's a great time to talk about the subject of the show, the title of the show. Okay. How you, being the viewer, can help to regulate the hair transplant industry. And I got the idea for this because I was perusing, I won't say whose website, but it's a well-known clinic's website. And I've not looked at it in a while. I've seen it before, and it didn't seem like there was any issues with it. Actually, I know there weren't any issues with it. But it seems like they've made updates to their website that are concerning. And it got me thinking.
Bullshit.
Yeah.
False advertising.
Lies. Yeah, completely false advertising. I'll even say fraudulent advertising, to be more specific and upfront, about regenerative medicine, about, you know, the benefits that patients will get from it, not might get from it, and then, you know, surgical guarantees, which I've been on record for many years saying are completely unethical, and it got me thinking about how I'm one person, I'm seeing this, and I think it would be fantastic if everyone viewing this broadcast and listening to the audio on Spotify, iHeartRadio, whatever, Apple, iTunes, when you are coming across what you feel is misrepresenting advertising, fraudulent advertising, false advertising, whatever you want to call it, where claims are made that can't be substantiated, and I'm talking about absolutes, something will, this treatment will do something, as opposed to it can do something. Or some of our patients in the past have experienced, this type of result. Results will vary from patient to patient.
Less than 1% transaction rates.
Yeah. I think that we're in a position, when I say we, I'm talking about the collective here, everyone watching and listening, to do something about this. And these are baby steps, but it would be nice if this caught on, where you get the link from that website and send it to us. Send it to us in DM on Instagram, at Joe Tillman Official, at Spencer Kobren. Send it to my website. Send it to admin@hairtransplantmentor.com. And a couple of words of why you think it's, give us some direction. Like, don't just send us a link and leave it to us to peruse the whole fucking website, so we got to find out for ourselves. Send the link to the actual page and give us, tell us what's wrong with it. I think that there's potential for bigger things to come up of this if enough people participate, send us this information to where we can put it into a database and maybe do something with this. I'm not talking about tomorrow. I'm talking in not the so far distant future, where this information that you, the viewer and listener, can contribute to where something can be done. Standards can be created. Shaming and blaming can be performed. That would make for some interesting episodes. Look at this website. These are the claims that they're making, and this is why it's false advertising. That kind of thing. Let us know down in the comments below or in the chat room if you're watching and listening live what you think of this. If you think that there's any sort of, if you have anything you want to contribute to that idea.
Yeah, but also if you guys are getting, if you're in your feeds and you see these ads for Halloween sales, I just posted something in our WhatsApp group, 15% off of this with a free consultation. Well, I don't even know what the gimmick was, spooky hair, some shit like that. That's what you probably get, actually, spooky hair.
Spooky hair.
Yeah, or if you're a veteran, tell us you're a veteran. It's Memorial Day and you're a veteran, we'll give you 15% off. How about just giving veterans 15% off if you know they're a veteran across the board?
Yeah,
don't even have to promote it. Ask them. Do that quietly. Someone comes in your office, ask if you've ever served. If you did, give them 20% off. Thank them for their service.
Yeah, that's the way you do it.
I see these fucking guys, man. I mean, they're inducing surgery. It's actually depending on your state, that could be illegal.
It's illegal in British Columbia.
Yeah,
I can tell you that.
So if someone is sending out a newsletter and you see a fucking special, that's when you should pause. Be like, why are these people giving me $500 off or $2,000 off or just for this particular day? If you sign up now before December 31st.
Yeah. In many states and provinces, that is actually illegal. And by sending us this information, you are helping to end this, because I'm certain that something can be done with this collective effort to put clinics on notice. If they start thinking about this, then maybe someone on their team would be like, I don't know if we want to do this. That Spencer and Joe, they'll come after us.
They're real pains in the asses.
One of their followers will report us. They're pains in our asses. I like being a pain in the clinic's asses sometimes.
Well, I mean,
do your part.
But here's the thing. These people who claim to be leaders in the field or pioneers, these people are, they have cheapened their own field. The reason why the field is where it is today is because of these fucking people.
Mm-hmm.
People who are making claims that their biologics are somehow superior to others, their PRP or whatever it is, without any true data. They've conducted some fucking study in their own office, and they're making these incredible claims, or that they can guarantee, in their hands, they have a less than 1% transaction rate. How the fuck do they know?
Yeah.
And how are they going to guarantee growth? They have no idea how many grafts are growing. Now, there are tools that are being developed now that are actually going to be, I think, highly useful in the field. A lot of people probably won't invest in them. But those that do will be able to actually know in time how many grafts are being transected, or, I mean, you can kind of know that too if you're honest. But, or how what percentage of grafts are actually growing per square centimeter that were implanted. Those details are going to be able to be more easily deciphered and passed on to the patient soon. There's a lot of stuff happening. But the fact that these claims are being made now and have been for the last decade, especially when FUE came out, it's ludicrous.
Yeah.
And all the people that are claiming to be pioneers when they're fucking not pioneers.
It's so lost the impact of its meaning to
Yeah.
be a pioneer in this industry. What the hell is that? You know what? Here's the thing. I would rather not go to a pioneer of this industry because it means that for the first 3 or 4 years they fucked up a lot of people.
They really fucked up a lot of people.
I think the idea of going to someone that learned, many years after something was introduced from multiple people that know what they're doing, I think that's probably that's actually a more ethical way to go, I guess.
Well, that's actually an excellent point, Joseph, because those who are saying they were the first in the trenches, they fucked up the most people. The people that have learned the generation,
a lot of people over here,
or 2 generations after, the 35-year-olds that learned how to do it right from the beginning, based on all the mistakes of these pioneers and all the lives and the walking wounded that they left behind. Now, the one good thing about going to a so-called pioneer, someone who's been doing it forever, is they have made a lot of these mistakes already. Mm-hmm. They're not just learning from other people's mistakes. So there's an advantage. There's an advantage to that as well.
There is. So your result is built on the failures of others.
Yeah, your result is based on not just the failures, but the life-altering disasters of others.
Which is, I laugh only because of how ludicrous it is to think that would be a marketing angle, but it's true, unfortunately. Yeah, boy, that's a big rabbit hole we could really go down. But that's the truth. It's like if you're a pioneer in a surgical, not just hair restoration, but any sort of surgical field, it means that a lot of people were really unhappy with their outcome until you finally got your shit right.
Yeah.
And that's a problem with surgery.
And even creating tools for the field, even creating tools and devices for the field, doesn't mean that the device initially was great or ever really great. Yeah, I could say, yeah, here's a chisel. I mean, like Tony Mangobat. I think he's still around. He invented the Mangobat whacker. I forgot what he called it.
Oh my God, I remember that. I actually used it once.
Did you?
During the conference, yeah. 2004 ISHRS conference was in Vancouver. The Hasselwan Clinic was used as the for the workshop, showing off different procedures. And the Mangobat whacker was right there.
So maybe you can explain. Maybe you can explain what it is to people.
Yeah, easy. So what it was, I got to remember the details. It was simply a board with these razors that were embedded vertically, and it had a hinge, and you would lay the strip. This is before FUE was really taken off. It was already out, but it was before it really took off. You take the strip and you lay it across this. It looked like something you'd see in a circus where the guy lays down on the bed of nails.
Yeah.
That's what it looked like, but it was a bed of razors. And so you lay it down and you stretch it and you try to eyeball it just to see if the rows of follicles will line up with the razors. And then you take the hinge and you bring the upper side, the top side of this contraption down. It's a linear.
It's like a hard-boiled egg
board
thing, when you cut the hard-boiled eggs.
And then you but then you literally
You
get a
whack
mallet,
it.
a rubber mallet, and you go whack, and bam.
Follicular
1,000 grafts
holocaust,
in,
man.
in 10 seconds.
Follicular holocaust. You don't need any technicians to dissect under microscopes. Who gives a shit? Yeah, some of the hair is transected.
Microscopes. Ha.
So
I laugh at your microscopes.
This guy invented this, and it was part of his bio, part of his CV.
Yeah. Yes.
People would read this shit. He invented this, this instrument or whatever, this tool for the use
I will
of
never forget
dissecting
I will never
follicular
forget
units.
his demonstration of it was sorry. It wasn't just a strip. It was the slivers.
Slivers,
after the strip. So the technician would sliver the strip, and then you take the sliver, and that's how you whack. But you line up like 10 slivers. So you get your 100 grafts in. That's right. I forgot about that detail. It was 20 years ago, 19 years ago. You get your 100 grafts a minute by doing it like this.
Yeah.
So yeah, and I'll never forget. He was so absolute in his delivery of his presentation as he's performing this surgery. And I remember thinking to myself, like I was kind of shaking my head and rolling my eyes back then, and I didn't know nearly as much then as I did even a few years later.
Well, I have to tell you, he was definitely one of the most articulate and just really great presenters.
He was
as far as the old guard
speaker.
Yeah, as far as the old guard is concerned,
incredible.
this guy was convincing as hell, and I had a lot of respect for his ability to deliver when he spoke. Mm-hmm. And that's not easy. You see a lot of these guys are just like mumbling idiots, but some of them are good. But this guy was really just. You believed what he had to say. He was very convincing, and he was incredibly articulate. Sadly, that wasn't a good idea. But I'm sure he sold a few. It was around for a while. And I'm sure there are plenty of people who are walking around with grafts that never grew and that were mangle-whacked and then implanted into their scalps.
I know one famous New York doctor that thought it was bloody brilliant.
No pun intended, I'm sure.
Anyway.
Oh, I think, and I think that same New York doctor informed Tony, Dr. Manglebat, that I had spoken on the radio that I had a file on Tony's unhappy patients, and then Tony cornered me at one of the meetings in Chicago,
and looked up at you and said,
"Yeah, exactly." And then I went off on him. I said, "Look, man, why do you think I do what I do? Besides my own personal interest, do you know how many people come to me who've been fucked up by the likes of you and other people who have followed in your path? You blaze this trail, and then all these sucker physicians decided to take your lead." Anyway, here's an interesting guy. He really disliked me, I'll tell you that. Those are the good old, he really, actually, I remember at the meeting, I was talking to Victor Hassan. He's like, "There's Tony." So I actually went up to Tony.
Yeah.
He's like, "There's Tony." I'm like, "Oh shit, let me go say hi." And that's when it started.
Yeah. That's what
I never waited for these guys to come to me. I never avoided them. I would always introduce myself. That's right. I'm the motherfucker on the radio who's been talking shit about you. What's up?
I did that last year at the World FUE Institute conference in Istanbul. I walked up to this one, the Turkish doctor where I did the undercover patient.
Oh yeah, yeah.
7 years ago, 8 years ago.
Guys, hold on. We'll take your calls
said,
after the story. Yeah.
Hey, I was in the middle of an interview or something, and I was like, "Oh, excuse me, hold on, let me be right back." I was like, "Hey, how you doing?" He's like, didn't know what to say, turned around and walked away, and he kept staring at me the whole interview, and I was just like, "Hey, what's up?" He couldn't bring himself to talk to me later on. It's kind of funny, little inside baseball there.
That was one of my first meetings. I just remember that I'm going to call him a creep. That guy that owned this website went up to common law and essentially invited her on his cruise.
Yes.
And
yes,
she was like, well, you know I'm Kobren's wife, right? And he just turned white. This guy had a hand like a bunch of bananas, though. I never saw anything like it. Guys, 888-659-3727. Let's see who this is. Hey, you're on the air. Who's this and where are you calling from?
Hey, John from the Bay Area. I'm one of you guys' biggest fans. You guys are the best.
John, what's happening, man?
Hey, Joe, Spencer, how you guys doing?
All right.
Hey, great.
Can't complain, man.
Good. Hey, pardon me?
Can't complain.
Hello? Good. Hey, a couple of things. I just want to comment. Your radio on John Cole, on Dr. Cole, that is the best radio that I've heard in a long time. That is hilarious. That whole interaction with you guys, it's sad. I'm surprised the medical board didn't get involved with that, Joe. I mean, if that was in California, which is where I am, I guarantee you the medical board would have suspended his license. No ifs, no ands, no buts. So he's lucky he didn't get his license suspended. And in terms of the racial stuff, that's another reason why, too. And it would have been definitely suspended. But in terms of the radio and his son calling in and you guys go back and forth, I mean, maybe it's kind of a bad way to look at it. But it was interesting, entertaining radio. So you guys were brilliant on that.
Well, I appreciate that. And listen, like I said, when his kid called in, I was like, look, this took a lot of balls. I understand why you want to support your father. I would do the same thing. Mm-hmm. The problem is the kid wasn't prepared, and he just...
Not at all.
And so if I were going to make that call, I would have all of my ducks in a row. I would be completely prepared to systematically dismantle Kobren if possible. That's what I would have done. But instead, his dad believed that we somehow attacked his son. Like, I didn't call the fucking show. Your kid called the show. And I honestly believe that I was very patient and respectful.
Man, you were great.
We gave him plenty of opportunity to talk. Yeah.
You let him hang himself in his own rope.
Well, say it again?
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Well,
you let him hang himself.
Go ahead, caller. Sorry, man.
Oh, I was saying that you let him hang himself with his own rope, with his own comments. You let him. He was basically trying to get you guys to get into the aspect of ranking doctors, and your ranking wasn't sufficient. And you basically made the point, at least from my perspective as a listener, that, look, that's not your job, really, is to rank doctors and to do that as he wanted. You're a consumer activist, not activist, but a consumer assistance type of a program. And that for him to do that is way out of line. And the fact that you put up with him for so long, but boy, was that funny. And you exposed him, and that's exactly what you were supposed to do, which is what you did. You handled that, both you guys. And Joe, if you had reported, you could still report him to the medical board. He should be kissing your you-know-what that you didn't report him to the medical board. I'm surprised the medical board hasn't investigated, frankly. Maybe I haven't heard about it. But the California Medical Board is very punitive. But then again, he's in Georgia, so maybe it's a different animal out there. But he does serve California patients, so I don't know if the California Medical Board would get involved, or any medical board. I've never heard of a doctor threatening somebody.
Yeah, I don't know if he still has his license in California. He did at one point.
I think he had a hand. I think he had a hand that in at one point. I'm not completely sure.
Yeah,
but that was great radio. You guys, that was funny. That was fantastic.
But what I found interesting is what you didn't see behind the scenes, and I thought it's telling. Listen, all I can tell you is over the years, this physician, unfortunately, has, at least according to his colleagues and everything that we've seen over the years. And again, I'm not a psychologist or a physician. I'm not a psychiatrist. But it appears that this guy's become more and more unhinged as the years have progressed. Now, when this all went down, his colleagues contacted us behind the scenes, some of them publicly to some degree, and essentially said, look, this is the situation. Everyone knows this is the situation. And, it's probably good that you've handled it this way because you probably don't want to be associated with this person. And the way that I spoke about it, and I said this on the air, my whole thing has always been, look, there's so few physicians out there that are able to offer consumers a good end result. And he was one of them. for a very, very long time. But I don't disagree with these physicians saying that you might be potentially putting patients in harm's way, at least emotionally, by continuing to work with this person. Not his work. There's nothing wrong with his work, but you don't want the potential for patients to be harassed or harangued or made to feel bad about the results from other physicians if he's coming in for a repair surgery. Mm-hmm. So we're just kind of hearing more and more of this shit happen.
Or even a progress opinion after having surgery just 4 months previously.
Yeah.
To walk into a clinic and say, hey, just looking for your opinion on my progress, and then for a doctor to say, oh my God, what happened? And to tell a patient at 4.5 months that their donor area has been depleted and that they're not going to get any growth. Things like this are wildly unethical. Like to call it unethical, it doesn't even begin to cover it, because you're dealing with patients are already in the first 6 months, they're already losing their marbles to varying degrees because they're unsure of the result. Is it going to grow? Is it, is this shock loss? Is it permanent? Will it look natural? Will it be dense? Have I made a mistake? All these things are going through their heads, and other things I haven't even covered. So for a doctor to do anything but give them support, to encourage them to give it the time it deserves to come to fruition, as all hair transplant results deserve, which is a minimum 8 months to 1 year, is grossly unethical to not do that.
Well, I can tell you this, and listen, man, dude, I always forget you. Why do I forget your name? How do I forget you? You're such a great caller.
Oh, John. I have another question after this. John,
yeah, but just first of all, thank you for commenting on that. I'm glad that you enjoyed it. Sometimes when you're dealing with all the bullshit that you deal with in this industry, it could be entertaining to our listeners. And that's one of the reasons why I think it's important for people to kind of see what's happening behind the curtain, to be privy to this information. And, John Cole's son, Nicholas Cole, made that possible for us, because I wasn't going to bring it up during the show. I told Joe, listen, I didn't want to talk about this shit. Let's not even want to. Yeah, that's not. You just froze, Joe.
Joe went off, and that was Joe released that information, even put it on the screen about the threats on Twitter, on the instant messaging. That was priced. That was unbelievable. That was shocking.
It was fun.
Good radio, good internet for sure. And the thing is, Spencer and Joe, also it goes to trust. If a physician does that, you can't trust him. You can call it ethics, whatever you want. And so for you to expose that, you can't trust a doctor who's going to threaten the life of someone who's going to maybe comment negatively on that doctor, or he didn't want him in the organization anymore for whatever reason, and he just went off on Joe. He just went off.
Well, what's interesting about that is that I've read some commentary, or somebody sent me something where, and actually a doctor asked me, and they said, how is Dr. Cole still a part of your organization, even though this all went down? And I'm like, what, you didn't click on his profile? It states clearly that the guy has been suspended since that time. For I don't know, how long ago was that, Joe? A month? 2 months?
A month.
So people are so lazy that they just kind of scroll through the website and see someone has an image or a listing, and they don't click on it. It shows you how even the simplest things, and I really feel bad for anyone who doesn't, if they go to the IHRS and they just look at a bunch of pictures of doctors and make a choice without actually clicking on their profile to learn about them, that's insane.
Well, that is insane.
But it shows you the stupidity of people, and then they regurgitate this online. They're like, oh, yeah, well, Kobren's still promoting this guy or whatever, however they're saying it. I saw this doctor write this, and I'm just like, Jesus, man. People are just so lazy.
And then it makes them, if I understood you right, to make some slightly anti-Semitic statements. I thought I heard
slightly.
You say that, Spencer, at some point.
In my 58 years, I have never been a victim of such anti-Semitic vitriol.
Okay. Yeah, I know. I'm Jewish myself. I know. That's when I heard that. That alone it's so outrageous. It really does speak poorly of the industry, especially a doctor with that kind of experience. That really.
And then when it was brought to his attention that his son posted this anti-Semitic stuff, John Cole doubled down on it, comparing
after the son apologized.
Well, it was a backhand apology. He was just trying to save his ass. It was a backhand.
Well,
Then he compared me to the who's the family? The opioid family.
Pharmaceutical.
Purdue Pharmaceuticals and the tobacco industry. But anyway, first, he's comparing me to Goebbels, basically second in command to Hitler, and then both of us, and then John Cole doubles down on that and explains why we are who we are. Like we're running some sort of a propaganda machine. We may not be actually exterminating Jewish people, but we're running a propaganda machine just like Goebbels did.
But we are a threat to humanity. Those are his words.
Oh, that was a good one.
Spencer Kobren and Joe Tillman are threats to humanity.
No, I'm serious, you guys. His license should be suspended for that. I cannot believe the Georgia Medical Board has not seen that, and the fact that he is not having his license suspended, he is very fortunate. Very.
Well, who knows? Fortunate. I mean, these things don't happen overnight, my man. Who the fuck knows what's going to happen? I don't know.
It should happen, and he should be required to go through some counseling or sensitivity training or whatever the case may be. Nobody is above that. The very best of us have to go through that sometime, and he is one of them. If you showed his statements to the Medical Board of Georgia, I guarantee you they would do something. I would think. I know it's Georgia, but Georgia. This is the same Georgia of 30 years ago.
I know there was some sort of reprimand in California. I think he probably still has his license in California, but this was a long time ago. There was something that went down in the state of California. Yeah. But I mean, listen. This is how I feel about it. It's unfortunate. This is a guy who not too long ago was essentially gave me a Lifetime Achievement Award, basically saying I completely changed the field. If it wasn't for Spencer Kobren, this field would never have evolved, essentially. FUE would not exist, yada, yada, yada. It's incredible speech online, have him on video, and then saying incredible things about Joe Tillman, how he's needed and how our message is so needed. And as soon as we raise an eyebrow about some shit that we were concerned about, he lost his fucking mind and we became the devil. And everyone that works with us.
And Joe had him on his show, the main event. I remember one show I listened to it after. Joe, you had him on. Just you and him, you interviewed him. And he got a couple clients from that, patients from that, I think. That was some months ago.
Yeah,
are you kidding me?
Of course he did.
I mean, that was months ago, but that's the fact that you would do that for him. And then, that's mental illness. In my view, as a patient, as a consumer, I see a doctor, a professional doing that, having that type of behavior. To me, that's mental illness. You don't want to be anywhere near that doctor. Anywhere near that doctor. Man, oh man, that is dangerous.
Well, the good news is that I'm pretty sure that will never happen again unless we run into each other at a conference, and I'll be sure to have some sort of restraining order in place in case that happens.
Yeah.
Might have. I mean,
you never know.
Anybody who's that gets that unhinged. So, but let me get to my question though, and this has to go directly to Dr. Wong, to your doctor, Joe. And I know it's a little bit off the subject, but Dr. Wong, just from looking, there was another caller, I guess, from your show last week, and he said he got almost 5,000 grafts from FUT from Dr. Wong. How could he get that many? It seems like most of the FUT surgeries are 2,500, 3,000. How could Dr. Wong come up with almost 5,000? And then on his website, he talks about he does that regularly. Is there some technique he has where he can harvest that many grafts where other doctors can't do that?
Look, one thing I can say about Jerry Wong and Victor Hassan and doctors like Sever Merceneau and his wife Laura Merceneau in Switzerland, when you work with FUT long enough and you have a certain mindset on being progressive about the possibilities and understanding the nuances of FUT surgery,
jump in the camera on you for a second.
Yeah, go ahead. You're not limited to 2,500 grafts, 3,000 grafts every time. Now, the way that he does it, and better clinics do this, is to not take out one long strip. That's the first and foremost. That's the number one. Well, I won't say it's number one, but that's one of the top factors that allow for such a large amount of hair to be taken. And the reason for that is because when you take it out in sections, you can more accurately judge the laxity of a scalp. Because laxity, how loose one's scalp is in the vertical plane on the sides and in the bilateral and the occipital donor region, it's not a fixed degree of laxity. It's variable. Mm-hmm. It's variable from 1 area of 2 centimeters, maybe 2-3 centimeters, to another area. And so when you're dealing with laxity and you're taking out the strip, it's better to take it out in small sections, because then you can more easily adjust the angle of the scalpel to compensate for that laxity. Whether if you come into areas that are tighter, you might come into areas that are a bit more pliable, and you can go wider.
How many strips would
and
he
that
take?
allows and that allows both sides to come. Hang on, that allows both sides to come together. What's that?
How many strips would he take? How many strips would he take, do you think, for 4,300 grafts? I mean, are you talking 3 strips, 4 strips?
No. It's one long continuous strip, but it's taken out in sections. So instead of being one long strip, it's taken out in three sections or 4 sections, depending on what he's finding, so that's more easily manageable. So once the wound is closed, it's still one linear scar. Does that make sense?
Okay, it's not 3 different scars in different areas of the scalp. It's one scar.
Correct.
Taken out in 3. I see. And that allows him to get
from one side to the next. Well, I'm not done. There are a lot of other things to this. And another thing that he'll do is he'll take the strip longer than a lot of clinics will. Most clinics will stop at the back of the ears on either side. He'll go much further. He'll go in front of the ears, because the safe donor zone actually does extend further forward than most clinics will recognize. But then there's also the ability to, the introduction of microscopes was a huge deal in hair restoration, because that alone allowed for a 30% increase in yield. So when you're really good with microscopes, that can actually increase what your yield's going to be. Okay. But then there's the issue of what I was talking about before with taking out in sections and understanding laxity. You're able to take out larger sections of tissue. You're able to take out a wider strip of 2 to 3, even sometimes 3 centimeters wide in one surgery, as opposed to 1. And that really makes a huge difference in the final count.
Isn't that more dangerous, though, to have a wider scar, though? They did that?
Well, no, because if you're understanding the laxity and you're paying attention, if you're still closing under minimal tension, as if you would if you'd taken out a smaller strip, then it's still manageable. And I don't believe that the likelihood is any higher. Now, with that said, I do believe that there are there is potential for more unknown variables to work into that final result, to where maybe if you have some sort of issue with growth, you're basically putting all your eggs in one basket in that one surgery. So if it doesn't grow properly, you can't go back in. You can't go back in for another 5,000 grafts. That's why I'm not a huge fan anymore of these big sessions, because I remember 7,000 and 8,000 graft sessions. Those were days that we would celebrate in the clinic. It's like, wow, we got so much. That's good for the clinic, good for us. We're really pushing the envelope.
For the patient.
But
good for the patient too.
Well, that's what I said. But then there's the issue. That was the first thing I said. But the downside is if it doesn't grow, and there have been cases where it didn't grow very well.
Not so great for the patient. Not
so great for the patient.
Well.
So I'm not a huge fan of those giant cases anymore, FUE or FUT. I'm not like, when they work great, they're wonderful, and I support that. I do. But anyone that asks me about it, I see no problem. I see no benefit anymore and doing one big session as opposed to 2 smaller sessions? Like, what's the rush? I don't get it. I used to get it, but I was wrong. I don't get it.
Do you think those big cases have more shock loss potentially because they're putting so many more grafts and there's so much more trauma potentially? Do you think that could, or not really, as what you're seeing?
On the surface, yeah, there would be more potential, but if you're prepping the recipient area the right way, you're shaving, and you're using the right instrumentation for the most minimal physical impact to the physiology of the patient, then those potential increased chances are reduced again. So, I think that in general, across the board, it's 6 to 1, half dozen the other. But I think that there is a potential for more shock loss if something is overlooked, if someone on the team isn't doing things just the right way, like they normally do.
Does Dr. Wong shave everybody, even for FUT, unlike other doctors? Is that his protocol? Shave everybody, FUE or FUT?
Pretty much. There are cases where, unless something's changed in the past 7 years since I've been there, almost 8 years. Yeah, almost 8 years. Unless something's changed, he'll shave everyone, but he'll acquiesce to the request not to shave if it's under like 2,000 grafts, because then it's not going to take 3 days to do the job.
I see. Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. God. All right. Thank you very much.
Oh,
That's good.
John, man, you're always a great caller, and I'm, it's interesting how that Cole situation impacted you, and I have a feeling that a lot of people who aren't calling in to talk about it felt the exact same way.
Yeah.
It really did, Spencer. It woke me up. I was listening to your show, and I once I started hearing, I was riveted. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I literally could not believe this was going on. You know what? I mean, I'm not a snitch, but I'll tell you what, for you not to call the medical board on Joe, for you not to call the medical board, if doctor did that to me, I guarantee you I'd be on the phone to the medical board. He owes you for you not calling the medical board. And Spencer, I think you've been very diplomatic and professional.
Dude,
on how you've handled it.
How do you think I felt when I was getting those texts coming through? I was like, what the F?
Well, here's the thing. It's important to be professional and diplomatic, and you're dealing when you're dealing in any business in any world. Even medicine is no different. You have to be measured in your approach. Unfortunately, John Cole has never been that guy. I've always been that guy, and I think that's also what makes him even more angry with me at times, because I'm the type of person who's like, all right, dude, my man, good luck, And I once wrote him, this is interesting, not too long ago, I wrote him best of luck. This is before this whole thing went down. And this was through a text. And he was like, you are so full of yourself. I'm like, in my mind, I was wishing him luck on something, And these have been red flags for a very, very long time. Not to mention the reality of him publicly defaming his own colleagues.
Yes.
So in our world, and this is important, and John may be listening, and his son may be listening, and his daughter may be listening, who did some very, I would say, terrible, wrote some really vile public things to a patient who was a repair patient. John Cole is persona non grata in this field. That's just the way that it is. And he may not understand that now, but it's his actions. It has nothing to do with me or Tillman or anybody. We don't have to do shit. We're just hearing this through the grapevine. People are coming to us saying, this is ridiculous. This should never have happened. This guy should not be a part of what we do. And I'm just like, whatever. You deal with them. I don't want to deal with them.
Well, Spencer, what's good is you don't lose your temper, which makes it an effective way to handle it. Most people will lose their temper, get upset. Joe, I understand you lost your temper a little bit. I don't blame you. But, Spencer, you really kept your cool, and that's what made him look even worse and made your society look even stronger as you're the leader of it, and that's what it takes. I mean, these guys, they basically just trying to bully you and intimidate you, and you too, Joe. He's trying to bully both.
He wrote on his public Facebook that he plans on ensuring that Joe Tillman and me live in poverty. First of all, I was like, good luck with that motherfucker. That ship has sailed. You know?
Yeah.
But, you know, I mean, just being able to put that. He did write a funny line in a WhatsApp group. He referred to me as the Ted Kaczynski of Beverly Hills. Not sure what that meant, but it made me laugh.
That's right. Yeah.
You know, he was like, this guy he's unmarried, no children, lives alone. He's basically the Ted Kaczynski of Beverly Hills. Yeah. I thought that was fucking hilarious. Now, let me ask you this. I mean, because we know the guy, in my view, is a bigot, and he's definitely
Charlie Manson.
He's definitely anti-Semitic in my view. But with that said, what happens if I was gay? You know, like say he doesn't know my history, that I was, you know, with, you know, a common law wife for 18 years, and, you know, and that I had this wonderful life, and I still have a really incredible relationship with this human being, which he can never understand, or if he doesn't know my dating life or anything. But say
it probably wouldn't make any difference.
No, I'm saying, but say what happens if I was a gay guy and I was just living in a you know, really nice place in Beverly Hills, and I don't have any children.
Gay guy life.
I don't have any children. That would be the best gay guy life. He doesn't know my back, but just the fact that he somehow thought that would put me in some sort of a negative light amongst his colleagues. It really
he's lashing out on you because you discredited him, and you did it in a professional, ethical, factual way, and he couldn't handle it. And I'll tell you what, on his website, there's all sorts of allegations about him drinking all the time. It's all, I'm not saying anything that's out of school. It's all over the Yelp stuff. On his reviews. Go read his reviews. Go read Dr. Pohl's reviews.
Wait a second. Tell me. I've never looked them up.
I've never seen that.
Well, you just go to his patient. You know, you guys, you're just kidding.
I'm not kidding. I never looked. No, I never ever looked up this mother effer's reviews.
If you go to his patient reviews, you're going to see a lot of patients saying a lot of weird things. A lot of them referring to alcohol, him and alcohol. That is on. That is there. And so I thought a lot of this, what I'm hearing, it was alcohol driven. He just got drunk and upset, and he's lashing out. He probably didn't even know who knows? And that's the problem.
Where was this?
That's the problem.
Where was this?
Well, I will say this. The one time that he was at my place, one time he was at the studio, he was sober as a judge. I will say that. So he had no drinks when he was here. Now, I'm not saying that we all didn't go drinking at the Palm. I never forget this. So we go to the Palm restaurant, and I got a couple of guys, a couple of doctors, and I'm like, all right, let's go to the Palm. I'll take you over to the Palm, have a couple of drinks, eat. And he goes to me, you know, there's a few more people that want to show up. And I'm thinking, well, no, this is my town, so I'll handle it. So I get the back room at the Palm. I give them my credit card, and like he invites, like it had to be 35 people. You should have seen that bill, and they're ordering expensive bottles of wine now. Listen, it's a business expense, but I'm thinking to myself, that's unbelievable. Like, if I would have done that, I would have said, here, let's split this. You know?
Yeah, it's class. It's unbelievable. It's just the behavior. You know, I don't know. I don't know what to say. I mean, more than I say, it's listening to it. You can't believe what you're hearing, and yes, it does reflect poorly on the industry, and those other doctors should say something. I think you mentioned in one of the other shows that doctors aren't saying anything. Some of those other doctors in this industry need to stand up like you guys are and saying this is unacceptable.
Well, here's the thing, and I'm not going to mention any names, so I don't want to embarrass them, and I don't want to make them feel uncomfortable, but many of the people who contacted us directly, at least me directly, I don't know what they said to Joe, was that, and this is their words, and I have the receipts in case, you know, this ever went to court. But essentially this guy, they likened him, and I'm not saying that he is, I'm not a psychiatrist, and I can't make this distinction, but they've said things like, you know, he's, you know, he has the actions of a psychopath at some point, you know, or a sociopath, and that they don't want to get involved, and that, you know, it's like having when he gets you in his crosshairs, it could really make your life miserable, and they don't want to deal with it.
Yeah, I don't. Well, you know what?
And I'm just like, well, you know what? I'm the wrong guy to fuck with in that respect, because this is what I've been doing my entire career.
Oh, I know.
This guy,
no.
This guy is punching way above his weight class. Let's put it that way, and I think he knows it.
Well,
I mean, this is all I've been doing my entire career is dealing with a lot of insanity and having to go head to head with some really bad guys who are causing a lot of harm to people and having the balls to do it. So to me, it's like, all right, wait, get in line. Now, Joe is relatively new to this sphere. I mean, he's had some shit, but I don't think he's ever had a death threat.
Well, not like this. No, nothing like this.
Can I ask you, Joe? Can I ask you, why would you not report him to the medical board? The fact that you aren't is into. Why would you not report a doctor who's threatening your life to the medical board? I mean, for the safety of other people or other patients or other doctors.
That's a good question. I think the well, first off, to let you know, I did call the police. Alpharetta Police,
right,
Alpharetta, Georgia.
I heard that.
I talked about this before. They paid him a visit.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the way that this works is I don't need to be the one that reports him, because there are so many people that know about this now that have seen the evidence, that are colleagues that have a real stake in the I'll say the, how can I put this, in the safety of patient care, or the importance of patient care, that could be doing this on my behalf,
Joe.
but they could be doing it their own, saying.
But you were the direct victim, Joe. You were the direct victim. It would be
that doesn't apply. It doesn't apply, because if there's evidence out in the public domain that this has been done, it doesn't matter who makes the complaint. It's there.
No, I know. That's true. Well, that's true.
Yeah,
that's true.
It's there.
But I'm just saying that apparently nobody has done it. Nobody has done it. I'm just saying for the safety of.
Do you know that for sure? Do you know that for sure?
No, I don't.
Yeah.
I'm just one. I mean, you would have thought this happened a month ago. But if the medical board had heard about it, they would have been. He wouldn't be practicing right now. I don't think.
Well,
think
you don't know that. You don't know that. It could. These things could take time. Like, I don't know. But here's the thing: anyone can pick up the baton and do it themselves. Anyone can call. Like, if they feel like this is some sort of egregious enough event to warrant some sort of complaint, anyone can pick up the baton. It's right there on my broadcast. Send the link to any medical board where, if that's something that someone wanted to do on anyone that has made such stupid threats against a public figure, they could do that to anyone. Like, it's out there.
I'm just saying, Joe, you're showing a lot of restraint by not doing that, and Spencer, for that matter, both you guys are. So, Well,
I definitely, I will publicly condemn his anti-Semitic remarks and his son's anti-Semitic remarks.
I condemn it as well.
I have never felt, and again, as especially during these times, Jesus, I mean, it's absolutely insane. But I've lived a relatively. I'm not at the end of my rope, I don't think. But for 58 years, and I've dealt with, and I've talked about this on the show before. Being, and I hate to use this term because it's fucked up, but kind of being a passable Jew, meaning that I could be in a room with people, no one knows that I'm Jewish, and I hear all the anti-Semitic shit. And there's sometimes when I just kind of like want to be the fly on the wall, just so I could file that shit away and know who to deal with and who not to deal with. And then there are times I brought this up. Over the years, John Cole, I think this is even before he knew I was Jewish, would make some, I would say, anti-Semitic quips, like maybe some jokes, things like that. And again, I could take Jewish jokes, especially when they're funny. But when things are mean-spirited, or it's kind of taken as the reason why this person is doing what they're doing is because they're a Jew, things of that nature, which I've heard, in my view, in my recollection from him, you just know the guy's an anti-Semite.
It's outrageous.
Yeah.
it's being a bigot. I mean, that's what you don't. Even if you think it, you don't say it. You know, he cannot say it. The fact that he's saying it, it's unbecoming, it's unprofessional, it's offensive, and it's dangerous. And yeah, these times, I mean, we're seeing a lot.
Well, his kid started, and if you knew his kid's history, would you be like, "Holy shit"?
Yeah, the guy that runs the clinic, his son. I learned some stuff recently. Someone sent me something after all this went down, and I was like, "What the actual F? Are you kidding me? Like, this actually happened?"
Talk about it.
Like, when 4 years ago, we're talking, if his son wasn't actually running the clinic and listed as the chief operating officer, I would consider this to be not completely unrelated, but it's still related. 4 years ago, he was arrested and charged with aggravated assault for firing a shotgun at someone during a fight. The SWAT team actually busted down several
hour stand down with SWAT.
With the SWAT team.
Lord have mercy.
His adult son.
I have to laugh. This guy is he's going to all the meetings, and he's trying to schmooze with all the doctors. He's getting loaded.
You know, again, I want the medical board knows that fact. The medical board would probably exclude him from being the CEO of his company if they knew that. That's outrageous, also. Yeah,
and it's all public. Like it's not something you gotta dig for. It's easy to find. Like, I didn't know about it. If I'd known about it before I accepted him as a member, I wouldn't have accepted. Like, that was just a bit. I wouldn't have wanted to be near that. I had no idea.
But I think about that. How did we not know about that?
I know, that's the whole thing. It's like, how did I not know this?
Like, this guy would contact me out of the blue, and he would ask me questions about, like, when they wanted to build the studio, and I tried to give him a little advice, and then he wouldn't call me back, and then I would get like a weird drunk text about something that we said on the show, and there was one time I didn't know who it was. I'm like, who the fuck is this? And then I realized it was him, but the fact that we didn't know, I have to say, I mean, you never think about doing your due diligence on the family or the rest of the staff, as far like the front office staff.
Well, no, the CEO and he's sort of the spokesman. The fact that he would call you up, you should have mentioned that to him when he called up on the air that day. That would have been good. You should have brought that up.
We didn't know at that time.
I don't think that I knew. I don't think I knew yet.
No.
I think that was provided to us like after that phone call.
Yeah, it was. It was like 3 or 4 days after the phone call. But anyway, yeah, and almost 10 after.
And not only that, Joe, just the fact. Let me add this too, and get it all out. Joe, on your hair mentor, you even had a video where you complimented him and did a very nice video about him. That's what I don't get. Why he would come at you like that after you had been so nice to him. That's what I don't get.
He gave me a Lifetime Achievement Award, yo.
It's unbelievable.
On camera.
Look, in my opinion, it wasn't him being in a position where he should be grateful to me. He felt that he deserved to have that because he's the best in the world. That I owed him this video.
He once wrote me an email, and he actually said to me when he was angry, and I don't know if he was drinking. Who knows? You're saying that people are complaining about him drinking.
Oh, yeah. Go to his Yelp reviews. There's client after client, patient after patient making alcohol accusations.
All I know is the only time I ever spent any one-on-one time with him until we went to a restaurant when we were all drinking. He was totally sober when he was in this studio. But with that said, he had written me something, and it was like late night. It must have been 2 a.m. his time on a weekday. And it was this whole diatribe, and part of it was that I should be paying him to be part of my organization. That if he walks into a room, and I'm paraphrasing, if he walks into a room filled with other physicians compared to anyone in my group, that every physician will gravitate to him. And he's like, you want to know why? Because I'm the smartest and the most talented. I mean, he wrote this to me.
Yeah. And the most dangerous. Unbelievable. No, that's unbelievable. That's a sad. You almost feel, after all that, Spencer. Now you're getting me to feel sorry for him. Now, I almost feel sorry for him.
But that's the thing. So that's why I want you to picture me. And I actually wrote this on this group. I'm like, I had sympathy for John Cole for many years because most of his colleagues, at least the ones that spoke to me, they wanted to keep him at arm's length because they were concerned about getting in his crosshairs. They knew that this was part of his personality. So they were always like, well, that's John. And so I had sympathy for the guy. And that's why I was like, when I did a Global Hair Loss Summit initially, I was like, all right, well, there's no one else volunteering to do this thing. He claims to have been able to run meetings in the past. Let's give this guy a shot. We all know how that fucking turned out. Not good. Joe Tillman ended up having to do his job.
Man.
So, all right, brother.
You know what?
This was
You're
fun.
looking at the unofficial scientific director of the first GHLS. Hi there. How do you do?
So
Anyway.
the guy bitches about it forever, says it's the worst thing ever. Then all of a sudden, everyone says how great it was, and then he's like, "Well, everyone thinks it's great, but I'm still disappointed because you didn't do this, this, and this." And then if you look at his new bio, he's working for some wig company now or consulting. Essentially, it says that he is the scientific director of the inaugural Global Hair Loss Summit, the most
Attended online.
I forgot the exact term, but
conference.
something like the most attended online conference in the history of our field.
But the point is that you're exposing it, and that's what you're supposed to do in the role that you both have. You're exposing it, and clearly you're exposing it. Eloquently, you're exposing it. And thank you very much for doing that and having the cojones to do that and to help.
Thank you, John.
Help us and to expose that, and because it's really sad. It really, we hear it more. It is the anti-Semitic stuff. And all this and the threatening and all during these times, especially, it is very, very, very unfortunate. And you know what he should do if he had any guts at all is he should, on this program, he should give you a call and apologize for his behavior. He should get on the phone. Not his son. He should get on the phone and apologize.
Yeah, I don't think he has the wherewithal, the basic sense to make that happen. This is not part of his personality. It's unfortunate. So listen, I just got the high sign from Joe, even though he was 20 minutes late today. He's got to go. All right, brother.
Yeah, got to wrap up.
All right, caller who's holding on. Sorry, we got to go. John, man, thanks. Great call. All right, guys, we're gonna head out. We tried to avoid it, but what are you going to do?
We had no plans to actually talk about it. We got to answer questions.
Caller, man, we got to go, so we can't take your call. Joe's got to go. He's got some sort of something that's more important in this show to do.
Yes, I do.
All right, guys, until next time, thank you so much for tuning in. It was a great show, very productive, I thought. Appreciate you guys taking the time to call and help provide content for people who are going to be watching this on demand, and also for Instagram. Guys, follow us on Instagram. I'm at Spencer Kobren. That's at Spencer Kobren, just as it sounds. Kobren is spelled with a K. And Joe Tillman is at Joe Tillman Official. Until next time, be strong, God bless, and thank you so much for listening. Take care.
Thank you very much. I'm sorry for any inconvenience you may have been put to prior to the programme, and I'm glad you enjoyed it. And if you could now leave by the exits at the rear, that'd be splendid. Thank you.